Welcome to today's clinical consultation. Listen, if you've been struggling with your metabolism, battling relentless gut issues, or honestly just feeling totally fatigued despite doing everything right, I want you to just take a deep breath. You are in the absolute right place, and we are going to fix this together. Today, in this explainer, we're going to look at your daily diet through a microscopic lens. We are going to identify the hidden culprits lurking right there in your pantry and establish a deeply healing, incredibly effective nutritional protocol that will actually help restore your metabolic and gut health. Okay, let's dive into this treatment plan. We'll be walking through the whole wheat myth, the anatomy of grain inflammation, your new grain-free prescription, the 5 specific ingredients to healing, and finally, the perfect baking technique to pull it all together. So, starting right off with part 1, the whole wheat myth, or as I like to call it, a metabolic disguise. I need to break some bad news to you gently but firmly. As your guide to better health, I have to tell you that the so-called healthy whole wheat bread you've been relying on for years, the exact one that modern health guidelines have championed, is actually a metabolic disaster. It's actively working against your healing process. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why. If we look at the glycemic index, which basically measures how fast a food spikes your blood glucose, standard table sugar sits at a 65. White bread, that sits at 71. And right next to it, average whole wheat bread also sits at exactly 71. The whole wheat option triggers an identical massive spike in your blood glucose levels as white bread. Honestly, they're both higher than eating straight table sugar. From a purely metabolic standpoint, your body is just being flooded with glucose, driving insulin resistance and completely halting your progress. That brings us to part 2, the anatomy of grain inflammation. Now that we understand the very real glycemic damage, we need to transition and look a bit closer under the microscope. We have to diagnose exactly why conventional whole wheat is actively causing systemic harm to your body well beyond just that blood sugar spike. There are 3 hidden antagonists found within whole grains that are responsible for systemic issues in your gut. We're talking about antinutrients like phytic acid, inflammatory aggregators known as lectins, and heavy herbicide residues, namely glyphosate. Let's examine each of these pathogens really quickly. First up, we have phytic acid. Because you're eating whole wheat, the bran layer is retained, right? Well, that bran layer contains incredibly high concentrations of this organic compound. Phytic acid actually chelates, which is just a fancy word meaning it binds to and blocks the absorption of your essential minerals. So instead of nourishing you, it's actively stealing crucial minerals like iron, zinc, calcium, and magnesium right out of your digestive tract. You think you're eating a nutrient-dense food, but it's literally acting as a nutrient thief. Next, we have lectins. So the crucial point is that lectins are essentially a plant's defense mechanism. They're these dense compounds retained in whole grains that bind negatively to the cellular receptors lining your digestive tract. Imagine them acting like microscopic sandpaper. They're constantly agitating the delicate lining of your gut, which can potentially trigger widespread systemic gut inflammation and contribute heavily to a leaky gut environment. Finally, and perhaps most alarmingly, we absolutely must discuss herbicide residues. You see, industrial wheat crops are routinely treated with glyphosate-based desiccants right before harvest just to dry them out faster. And glyphosate acts as a systemic antimicrobial agent. Here's the massive problem. Because you're consuming the whole grain, that outer hull hasn't been milled away. That means your whole wheat flour frequently carries significantly higher pesticide residues than white flour. You are literally ingesting an antimicrobial agent that actively disrupts and destroys your delicate human microbiome balance. Let's look at part 3 now, the grain-free prescription. Okay, let's pivot away from the pathology now. We've diagnosed the problem, and now it's time for some hope. It's time to introduce the clinical solution that will actually heal your gut and reset your metabolism for good. Here's your systemic prescription. To achieve long-term systemic benefits, you simply must completely eliminate processed grains, starches, and these anti-nutrients from your daily diet. By removing these inflammatory aggregators entirely, you finally allow your gut lining to repair, your microbiome to flourish without being assaulted by antimicrobials, and your blood sugar to actually stabilize. This is exactly how we heal from the inside out. Which leads us to part 4, 5 ingredients to healing. I'm not just going to tell you what not to eat, though. I am giving you a biochemical toolkit. Let's introduce the 5-ingredient keto bread formula, not just as a cooking recipe, but as a specific combination of ingredients designed specifically for healing. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how meticulously each ingredient serves both a medicinal and a culinary purpose. Almond flour provides our healthy nutrient-dense fat and protein base with almost zero glycemic impact. Psyllium husk powder? Absolute magic. It acts as the primary soluble fiber matrix, effectively mimicking the elastic, stretchy properties of gluten, but without any of the inflammation. Baking powder serves as our chemical leavening agent to drive that crucial expansion and fluffiness. Sea salt replenishes those essential trace minerals. And finally, whole eggs and butter provide incredible structural protein, the essential moisture needed so the bread isn't totally dry, and super clean fats from the almonds and eggs that further stabilize your blood sugar. And lastly, part 5, the perfect baking technique. Look, having the right prescription is really only half the battle. Just like any medical treatment, this plan requires exact execution. Without the proper technique, you'll end up with a dense, heavy brick instead of beautiful, healthy bread. This is the X factor of our protocol right here. The precise integration of these 5 ingredients is completely non-negotiable. Because we aren't using traditional gluten or yeast, the structural mixing technique is the absolute secret to getting a traditional, light, airy bread texture without triggering a single metabolic drawback. Let's move to the kitchen and see how this builds, treating this mixing technique like a highly scientific integration of compounds. Step 1. You absolutely must thoroughly whisk the dry almond flour and psyllium husk together first to establish an even fat and fiber matrix. Step 2. Whisk in your chemical leavening, the baking powder, ensuring it's perfectly distributed for a nice, even rise. Step 3. Only then do you gently fold in your wet ingredients, the eggs and butter, to activate the moisture and structural proteins. If you overmix it, you destroy the air pockets. Integrate it precisely, and you achieve culinary and clinical perfection. So as we close today's consultation, I want to leave you with a real challenge. Think about it. If whole wheat bread, literally the poster child of modern health guidelines, is actually acting like table sugar in your bloodstream and sandpaper in your gut, what other healthy staples currently sitting in your kitchen are secretly working against you? It's time to completely rethink your pantry and take absolute control of your metabolic health. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you in our next explainer.